we still have a lot of work to do on it. After the conclusion of my statements and whatever small questions that you might have, we have a couple of people that have some information that you might want to take a look at. Lieutenant Kevin Work is right here. Raise your hand so they know who you are. Lieutenant Jody Booth is right there. Lieutenant Andy Lewis right there, or Captain Jim Runge in the back. We have some photos of the scene and a photo of the weapon that was used by the suspect, and we'll go from there. So I also want to point out to you that I want to make sure that it gets reported accurately. There seems to be a lot of speculation. I want you to know that this has nothing to do with the Packer Stadium Lounge. It's just where the call came from. They're not connected to this in any way. They were our witnesses. They were people that helped keep other people safe. They actually did a very good job. There's no association between it. It's a little bit of a detail, but I want to know it's real important to get the facts out, because there's a lot of things that happen in events like this. You have a family that's involved that lost a loved one. Whether you like it or not, they're still grieving. Or we have officers involved that had to do what they had to do. Whether you like it or not, they did their job, but they still feel the effects of that. So we're a long way from the end of this investigation, but the information appears pretty clear. So let me start you chronologically. On late Saturday night at approximately 10:20 p.m., officer of the Green Bay Police Department received a complaint for a welfare check from a female that was reporting that her husband was intoxicated and had left the home with a handgun. The complainant was very concerned about her husband, and she had indicated that he had not returned home yet, and was also concerned that he might get into a car accident due to his intoxicated state. Our officers, as per protocol, put out an attempt to locate countywide, region-wide, and that attempt to locate had caution indicators in it because of the mention of the handgun. That was given out to all surrounding agencies so that they're aware if they stop this person. At approximately 12:45, a little more than 2.5 hours later, the Green Bay Police Department responded to a 911 call at Packer Stadium Lounge, 1342 South Broadway. The call came in from a male that stated someone had fired a gun outside the bar, that they had fired a gun outside the bar. The officers searched the area, and bar patrons and other witnesses pointed out to where they had last seen the individual. The person is identified as David Spencer. He's a 35-year-old from Green Bay. David L. Spencer was outside on the north side of the Packer Stadium Lounge. Witnesses told us that he was leaning up against the building, carrying the weapon. He was crouched down in front of a van as well, holding the weapon to his head when officers approached him. The officers gave repeated commands to Mr. Spencer to put down the weapon, and he refused. Mr. Spencer took the weapon and took it away from his head and pointed it towards the officers. And that's when the officers shot Mr. Spencer. The officers then provided first aid to Mr. Spencer until Green Bay Rescue took over. Mr. Spencer was transported to the hospital where he died. The weapon has been recovered from the scene. It is described as a Beretta 40 caliber handgun. None of the officers involved in this incident were injured. Mr. Spencer does have some record with the Green Bay Police Department. The officers involved in this, the ones who actually had to do their job and fire, were Officer Scott Salzman, Officer Taylor Clark, Officer Clint Begune. Officer Salzman has over 7 years experience with the Green Bay Police Department. Officer Clark has 5.5 years of service with the Green Bay Police Department. And Officer Begune has 2.5 years of experience with the Green Bay Police Department. While this investigation is ongoing, there's still a lot of information to gather. From the preliminary reports that I have reviewed, it is my opinion at this point that the officers' actions were lawful, justifiable, and within department policy. We will continue to investigate this, send the entire investigation over to the district attorney's office for review, and we hope to have that completed by the end of the week. I will take any questions that you have at this time, if I can answer them.
Are the officers on leave right now as protocol, or are they still working?
Part of our protocol in the Green Bay Police Department is that anytime you have a critical incident, officers are assigned what's called administrative assignment, not leave. administrative assignment. We still want to keep them engaged with their peers. We still want to keep them active with the department, but for obvious reasons, we'll put them on assignment. They won't be on patrol for a while yet. We want to make sure that they're okay, as well as the investigation.
Was Mr. Spencer in the bar prior to this incident?
Mr. Spencer was in the bar. They did not know him. He was new to the bar.
Was the gun that was fired outside the bar, do we have any information as to who that was directed at, or did
There is, and that's a good question. Yes, we do. We do have some information regarding that, but it's still not completely clear for me to comment on that particular piece of information at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Exactly how many shots were fired?
There was 10 shots fired by 3 officers. 2 officers on the scene did not fire. They had other strategic positions that they did it properly, is what I'm saying.
Do you know where he was shot?
I'm not going to release that right now.
Of the 3 officers, if I'm not mistaken, Officer Salzman was involved in the shooting a couple of years ago.
April 21st, 2007, that's correct.
This seems very rare that the same officer would be involved in 2 of these. That's of no concern to you?
I've been on this department for 26 years, and I've been fortunate enough not to have to do my job. It's kind of rare that he would have to do his job 2 times in the same career.
You
All right.
spoke briefly about the impact for these officers. What kind of training and debriefing have they been going through at this point in time to help them cope with the actions that happened that night?
We have a protocol in place that we developed about 4 or 5 years ago, where we also have to account for the emotional well-being of everybody involved in the incident. And we have those protocols in place that include dealing with the critical incident stress through a licensed psychologist, and those protocols are in place. And the officers, let me put it this way, the officers are doing okay. I suspect that they're all going to be fine, but they're doing okay. This is not an easy thing to get through for anybody.
How much of a toll does this take on an officer from that kind of a post-traumatic stress aspect?
Just the nature of the process, by putting them on administrative assignment, by mandating that they go see a healthcare professional, that let alone is enough for them to go through. The fact that they had to do, they knew this, they knew that this was something that could happen in their careers, but it's never easy to deal with. And we're going to put every support system in place that we can, because after all, this is our family. This is the Green Bay Police Department family, and we got to make sure that we take care of them as well.
Do you know if Mr. Spencer was involved in the confrontation at all inside the bar?
I do have that information. I can tell you that it wasn't a confrontation inside the bar. He did have a discussion with someone. That's some of the speculation I was referring to. It really was nothing. So it had nothing to do with the establishment. He did have a conversation. That's just someone's perception. They might not even have the right person.
Chief, can I ask, when the wife called, did she express any idea that he would have been suicidal? So when you guys got on the scene, that you were dealing with someone who might have been suicidal since you saw a gun to his head?
There is some information in there about the mental health of Mr. Spencer. And let's just leave it at that for now. Okay? Look, we have some things that the professional standards can show you. I appreciate your patience in this. Like I said, the officer's actions were lawful, justifiable, and within department policy, but we still have to do the process, finish the investigation, and I hope to have this completed and at the DA's office before the end of the week. Thanks, everybody. The other guys will fill you in for anything else you might have.
What I'm passing out is the media release.